it isn't a weakness to ask for help. It's actually a sign of curiosity, which enables you to be a more well-rounded leader and better at whatever you're doing in business and personally as well.
This is the Pass the Pitch podcast with Anna Frazzetto. Each episode, we sit down with bold thinkers and industry trailblazers to uncover the strategies, stories, and sparks of inspiration that drive growth and transformation. Let's get started.
Hello, welcome to Pass the Pitch podcast. Today, I'm really excited to have Kelli Schutrop with me. And Kelli, usually before we get started, I always like to take a look at LinkedIn, how you describe yourself and what are some of the key items. And I have to say, I absolutely love your first sentence is what lights me up. And I think that is so fantastic because I think I have met my match as far as energy level when it comes to talking about marketing and sales and all these great things. So let me just share a little bit with the audience. You started your own company and you're equipping leaders to become trusted experts. You've created a hub of influence around them and you're unlocking new inbound revenue streams. I love the experience that you have over the past 15 years. You have been leading marketing and growing companies from the ground up. You're partnering with over 165 B2B clients that range in revenue from 1 million to 5 billion through consultative selling. So you do a great job at podcasts, conferences, webinars, LinkedIn learning courses. And I would find it hard to believe if they don't know who you are out there by now.
Well, thank you for having me, Anna. It's always entertaining and a little embarrassing to hear everything in one sentence for me. Hopefully it's helpful for everyone else. It's been really fun focusing in on sales and marketing in and around this industry that we serve.
All right. So why don't we get started? I've kind of prepared like a couple of different, questions that I figured we can kind of lead our conversation in. The first one, I was thinking about talking about leadership, right? So leadership lessons, and this is something that's very topical. Like you see it all the time on LinkedIn or in any trade press talking about leadership. And what's interesting is how do you position? So what's the most unexpected leadership lesson that you learned? And how has it shaped the way you guide your teams or the teams that you're leading in other organizations today?
That's a great question. When it comes to leadership and unexpected lessons that I've learned, when I started out in my career, I had the innate assumption that I had to show up impressive in every room, otherwise I wouldn't be taken seriously. And I had this assumption that everybody else had it figured out and I was the one new to the role or new to learning whatever I was learning. And it was so invaluable to me seeking out mentors throughout my career when I had that acknowledgement and realization internally, I don't have this all figured out. And I could really, really benefit by learning from someone who's been there before me. And the more that I've done that throughout my career, I realize we all hit that at every stage, right? Even individuals who are going to retire in the next 5 years are going to experience things that are net new to them that they've never experienced before. So I would say that leadership lesson has been the importance of giving back and also asking for help. So having learned so much through mentorship in my life, I now offer that to other people. And it's really rewarding because we're all on a journey of learning and trying to get better at our craft. And everybody's in that same boat, but there certainly are people that have gone there before us that we can learn from.
Right. And Kelli, I think one of the salient points that you highlight is the power of mentorship. And I love that subject and that topic because I've never talked to another industry leader that hasn't said that mentorship has played a role in positioning them in whatever role that they're currently in or helping them as they've climbed the corporate ladder. So you also said something like asking for help, right? And that's so key. It's so easy to feel like you should know and you can't ask for help because it might be embarrassing, but there's such a big lesson there.
Right. Well, and what I've found is that the leaders that are the best at their craft are insatiably curious. They acknowledge what they don't know and they seek out people who do have better insight in that area and they seek to learn from them. And so now that I've been surrounded by individuals that do that and take that approach, it's just become more and more ingrained in me that it isn't a weakness to ask for help. It's actually a sign of curiosity, which enables you to be a more well-rounded leader and better at whatever you're doing in business and and personally as well.
Right, right, great. And that's another key point that you mentioned, being curious. I think that's the answer to every sales and marketing question out there, is making sure that you stay curious. Let's talk a little bit about adaptability in business. What's one time that you or your team had to pivot quickly and it either made the shift successful or not, right? So what's your advice for kind of thriving at not unpredictable times?
You know, when we think about unpredictable times, naturally 2020 brought all sorts of unpredictability. I had my first little one the day the pandemic hit in my city, in Minneapolis. And so for me, I was sitting in a consultative selling role. So it was actually a really wonderful time to get to take 3 months and be out of the business world while everybody else kind of figured out what was going on. But when I stepped back in, I came back into that reality that everyone else had been slowly acclimating into, that we needed to go virtual. We didn't have any other alternative. And so I needed to quickly pivot in a sales standpoint from, okay, I can't show up at conferences and meet the people that I'm used to seeing and getting introductions and things like that because everything's virtual. So instead, how do I build community? And it was actually out of this, extroverted desire to have a sense of community and to foster that for other people that I started hosting fireside chats. So I would invite clients, people I was in conversations with, uh, just industry partners and leaders into a virtual environment to have a conversation as though we were at a high top at a happy hour at a conference, and really dialogue through topics that were relevant to me, relevant to them, relevant, most importantly, to our audiences, with the intent of, if they had been happening at a conference and somebody walked by and they said, "Oh, I'm really curious. Can I hear what you and Anna are talking about?" And just kind of camping out and sitting, listening, I was moving that into a virtual environment, and it did something really exciting. It built my network, it added value to the industry, and it also really skyrocketed growth for the company that I was representing, because innately the conversations I was having with these industry leaders was adding value. So when people had a need for what either of us did in the world of business, the listeners knew where to go to at least shortlist the conversation of, I'm looking for a partner in this area. So, quick pivot certainly to need to jump online virtually, and it worked out really well because I uh, built a great network and got to know a lot of awesome people, but also helped them in a business capacity.
Right. And Kelly, what was interesting about that time period too is that I kind of saw the evolution of virtual, dialogue. Initially, I used to find that when you would get a client on a Zoom call or a Teams call, that it would be purely business. So, which was interesting because it kind of took away, right? Like when you walk into somebody's office and they might have a new picture on their desk, or they have some trophy that the team won, whatever the case is, and you can actually start a conversation about that versus jumping into business. But then when you have the Zoom, the virtual, it took a little bit to try to say, well, how are you doing? How are things going? How's the family? Have that casual conversation first.
Yes, and now we are in such a seamless mode with virtual, right? When you jump on a Zoom, Teams, Google Chat, Google Meet, everybody kind of hits that right away. Where if somebody's dog walks by in the background, you want to know, what kind of dog do you have? I have a dog. And it's just a really nice way to relate to each other. And I know we all had to hit it in a crash course style with the pandemic, but that certainly in my mind was one of the silver linings of, you can build relationships with people all across the country, all across the globe, in a very similar way than historically what you could only do if you were physically together.
Right, right. And just on a side note, I hope, because I am seeing trends moving to being back in the office, full time.
Mhm.
And I'm concerned that we're losing some of the valuable tools and some of the things that we learned through the pandemic that actually worked really well and made business more productive because you didn't have travel time, for example.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how companies evolve with that new back to the office shift. And I think we'll see a lot that stay in a hybrid environment and say 1 day a week, 2 days a week. But I agree with you. I mean, there's also an entire talent argument to be made for being virtual because then you can tap into a pool that's beyond your city. But I digress. That's a whole exciting topic that we could dive into
Right,
for
right.
another episode.
That'll be right. That'll be the next podcast. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about personal branding. I know you've done a great job. I've seen you kind of evolve through your journey just on LinkedIn. But how do you balance staying authentic while building your personal or organizational brand? What's one thing you think people get wrong about this?
That's a really, really good question. Um, I chat with business owners and sales leaders a lot about personal brand and how they approach that with authenticity. And something that I've always had in the back of my mind is if my content on LinkedIn hits three categories, one or more of three categories, it checks a good box for my audience. The first is credible, the next is insightful, and the final is relatable. So, from a credible standpoint, if someone sees something that I'm sharing and it makes them say, wow, that's pretty impressive, it's typically because I'm doing things in their space that builds my expertise, right? So I'm speaking somewhere, there's an award involved, whatever it might look like, right? Now, insightful is where I try to spend a lot of my time and energy on, where I am adding value. I'm educating, I'm uplifting. It could be something that I created as an original thought. It could be something that I'm seeing someone else share and I want to elevate their voice because it's adding value. And then the third is relatability. And when we think about how LinkedIn has evolved so immensely over the last decade, it is not just a professional uh, digital resume anymore. Now it's truly a place where you can build rapport, build connections, celebrate each other. So when you can integrate posts and content that helps people feel like they can see themselves in what you're experiencing, it helps to build that relationship very quickly. So as I think about it, if my content is insightful, credible, and relatable, it helps me stay authentic in what I'm sharing. And it doesn't come across, at least in my mind, hopefully, too self-promoty, because if all my content is look at what I'm doing, look at these cool things I'm doing, uh, that serves a purpose in building credibility, but only to an extent. And then on the other side of the spectrum, if it's only relatable, if I'm only sharing pictures of sunsets or what my family is doing, it isn't building that professional environment. So that's also why I love to stay in that world of what is driving insight. And I'll also share when I think about people building personal brands. Oftentimes I hear, well, I don't know if I have expertise in this space. Like, what if people don't want to hear what I have to say? How do I approach this? There's really, in my mind, two main ways to approach it. One is, let's say you've been doing your domain for a long time, so you can speak to it naturally. The other is you're in a new space and you don't have years and years of experience in whatever that is, maybe the skill set, maybe the industry, but you've switched focuses. You can still curate information, approach different associations and subscribe to their newsletter, follow what they're doing on LinkedIn and reshare or give your own spin on what they're doing, give them credit, but that can also build your credibility and your authority in the space, even if you're not the originator of the thought.
I have to say, Kelli, I think you shared like the secret sauce of how to go about your personal brand. I love how you simplify the message, three basic categories: credible, insightful, relatable. I agree with you 100%. I think one of the things, there's such a push for personal brand, and there's many organizations out there that is their sole purpose, is being able to advance personal branding for individuals. And it does feel sometimes when you see those posts that it's a little bit of look at me and what
Mhm.
I'm doing. And it doesn't have the three elements that you mentioned. I think that's such a great balance because, hey, it's great to say, hey, look at me, I'm at this conference. but why is there value in this conference? What's the insight that you can share about the conference, for example, and things like that. So, well put. I think that was a great way to lay it out, and hopefully, it's a great takeaway from this podcast. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about customer experience, right? So, I mean, honestly, with everything that you do in the marketing space and that you do in the sales side of things, customer experience and relationships is the most key component. What's your secret sauce actually for creating unforgettable customer experience? Can you share a time where going above and beyond made all the difference in the world?
Mm. So I have a personal philosophy around giving back and leaving people in a better place after a conversation with them than before we entered into that conversation. So that's the approach that I try to take in networking, in sales conversations, and also in current client conversations. And the reality is, in the world of business, especially if you are representing a company from an ownership or a selling standpoint, naturally you have a service that you can provide and you can add value through that helps grow your business if you bring on clients. I think it's really easy to get narrow focused on, I want more customers, or I want to upsell these customers and hone in on, this is how I can help you. This is how I can help you. Now, in my perspective, what that does is it sets off kilter the relationship dynamic that you have with that prospect or with that customer, because they can feel that hunger for their dollar more than your desire to help them. And I think everyone has been in different boats in their career, again, whether sales, marketing, or a completely different industry, where you've wanted something so bad that you become less authentic in your approach of trying to get it. I've got someone I follow on LinkedIn and I'm connected to. Her name is Jen Allen, and she is a sales coach, and she does a phenomenal job training and educating on this topic. And one of the quotes she uses is commission breath, right? Like, nobody wants to experience that if you're being sold to. But same thing with if you're in a relationship with a current customer and they just feel like you're trying to tell them the thing just to get more dollars. So my mindset comes from, I was a marketer and managing marketing in-house for half my career. And then I pivoted into consultative selling. So I didn't want to be viewed as, we'll call it like a classic salesperson that was just hungry for revenue. I wanted it to be viewed as someone who was really genuinely trying to help, because it felt more authentic to me. And the conversations always ended up in better places. So my desire is to say, based on what my customer or a conversation I'm in, what they're trying to accomplish, if I can help them move in progression of what they need to do or what they need to know through my knowledge, I want to get them there. And if it's something where I'm going to point them to a different resource, I want to do that. Right. And so what I would say is that secret sauce of maintaining great relationships with your customers and giving those aha moments, to me, really comes down to that culmination of, are you trying to help them? Are you trying to help them? Because if you are trying to help them, the tide is going to rise all ships. And so I've just had multiple experiences over the years where a customer has approached me with a need, and I am not the one to solve it, but I'm going to work really hard to brainstorm with them on who can be those resources. And that tends to stand out to people that you partner with, because then they know you're in it for them. You've got their back. You're trying to help them. And again, it comes back around. When they have a need for what you do, they trust you as a more authentic connection of someone who's trying to help them beyond just a pure business relationship. And I appreciate it when people I partner with have that approach with me as well.
Oh, exactly. I mean, I have to tell you, I think some of the frustrations that I've experienced over the years in managing sales teams is the more junior a salesperson, the more, eager they are to show how much they know about the services that they're offering. So when they get that client meeting, I used to say, don't show up and throw up, right? Because what you're doing is you haven't even heard what the issue is or what the challenge is, what their pain point is. You're not in listening mode. And a lot of times that's the hard part, getting salespeople in particular, and even marketing, I would have to say,
Uh-huh.
to be in listen mode to what the triggers are And can you really help them? And then have the client have trust and faith in you that you're there to help them, regardless if it turns into a financial relationship. So I think very valuable in what you've shared, Kelli, is, build that relationship first and don't worry about the sale so much.
Right. And it can take time in your career to get to that point where you have pace in your internal logistics, whatever you want to call it, right? Where you can enter a conversation and say, I'm not entering this to make sure they know I'm impressive. I'm not entering this to make sure they know that I can add value, but to enter into the conversation truly wanting to help. And it takes the onus off of that. How do we make money out of this? Or how do we turn this into a deal? Or how do we hurry up and get off the call if it's not a deal? It shifts the perspective entirely. And in my experience, you have to live through different seasons personally, and you have to experience that from the other side to say, okay, I can't control everything. I will never be able to control everything. But if I can benefit someone and clearly articulate something that can help them, even if it's not what I'm doing today, they're going to remember that. And it's going to build this rapport and credibility. And it tends to come back too. That's not the reason you do it, but it does tend to come full circle where someone says, okay, Kelli wasn't the right fit for my exact need, but I just talked to someone and they need exactly what she needs. And they walk into that introduction really pleased to pass that person to them and use their relational equity to say it's worth a conversation with her, as opposed to if they felt like they just got sold all day long, they're probably going to be less likely to do an introduction because they don't want someone else to have that experience. So I think the more we just think about, how do I want to be treated in this conversation if I'm in the other side? That's how, the goal would be anyway, to treat them.
Right. And I think both you and I can share examples. You even said it, that you've gotten more business out of it. It comes back tenfold because they trust you. They know that you're not in it for the quick dollar. And therefore it might not be today, but it might be 6 months from now that there is an opportunity where they will call you for help and assistance because they felt that you were very genuine in how you approached a particular issue 6 months ago, for example. So I think all of those are such valuable lessons. And I think, part of the challenge, I would say, actually, is we kind of create the issue, specifically talking about salespeople, because if you think about it, when you're in a sales team, I know as a sales manager, leader, you got metrics, right? And how many meetings are going on, how many meetings turn into an actual qualified, opportunity, how many proposals do we have out there? And so there's a lot of pressure on a salesperson to kind of meet those numbers. So it's a hard trick for a salesperson to say,
it is.
I got to park that right now and take a deep breath and be in listen mode so that I can bring my genuine self to this sales exchange.
Right. And if you and I have learned anything, it's probably that the genuine relationship wins over time. Everybody feels respected in the process. And there really is more opportunity to be had with that mindset. And again, that's not why you lead with that mindset, but it's a really nice feature that comes from it.
Well, okay, Kelli, now we're going to have a little bit of fun. So not to completely surprise you here, but I'm just going to ask you some fun questions and tell me the first thing that kind of comes to your mind. What's one small habit or routine that keeps you grounded during a chaotic work week?
Oh, man. And don't we all have those, right? We all love to commit to so many fun meetings and important meetings. Something that keeps me grounded during a chaotic work week is focusing on literally what's the next ahead on my schedule, and also time blocking out work according to what needs to happen between those meetings. An analogy that comes to mind is when I was learning teleprompter training for the LinkedIn learning courses that I was creating, there was a lot of content on the screen. And if I tried to digest it all at once, I would totally trip up. But if I took it literally sentence by sentence, talked through each word, it was fine. And likewise, again, I'm a very visual person. So when I think about analogies, a few pop in my mind. If you think about like a linoleum tile in an older kitchen, right? Like you've got those foot by foot squares. if you were to try to walk across the kitchen floor and step in each square, you'd do fine. But if you tried to run at full speed across that floor and step in each square, you'd probably trip. So for me, visually with my calendar and having it be a chaotic week from time to time, if I tried to digest everything all at once, it becomes kind of overwhelming, and then I'm not present in each moment, and then I'm not doing myself or anybody favors. So if I can say, all right, this is the next meeting I'm in, nothing else matters right now. It helps me a lot to stay present and give my best within those conversations. Same with the work blocks versus if I try to take it all at once.
Oh, that's great. I love that.
And I will say, I also do a lot of preparing, right? So the day before, I ensure the next day is set up well. I know what's going to happen. Obviously, there's always curveballs. So making sure you've got some buffer for that is really important. So it's not just that I'm looking at each day going, oh, this is what's in front of me. I'm aware of what's coming, and making sure that I've got the pace and the cadence that I need for the next day or the following week or ongoing weeks.
No, that's great. I mean, that's great advice. And I think the calendar blocking that you were referring to also is great advice. That's how you get to kind of protect a little bit of sanity in your calendar and get you prepared for the next meeting.
Yeah. I just thought of this. I also block 15 minutes in advance for every conversation for preparing. It's something that I didn't used to do when I managed marketing because I didn't usually have that need. Either I came in without needing something prepared because I already had it in my mind, or I had set aside separate time to prepare. But when I stepped into a sales role, you take on a new lead conversation and you have to have time to prepare for that. And if you have meetings that go back to back to back, you don't always have that time. And then you're not setting yourself up to be successful in that conversation, much less be present. Because if you can come into it knowing more information about them, that sort of thing, you're less likely to feel behind. So for many of my conversations, I set aside that 15 minutes prior. And I don't always need the 15 minutes. Sometimes you need 3 minutes. But just to give it a mental breather to say, okay, I want to get in this headspace for whatever this conversation is so that I can do it the most justice. And there's so much benefit that comes out of that for the people I'm talking to, but also for myself, just to stay organized.
Right. No, that's a great point. And you actually bring up, I used to get so frustrated when you would have hour after hour after hour, and there was no time in between meetings because all meetings had been booked back to back. So over the last few years, I've been doing that. It's a 50-minute meeting so that you have that 10-minute there.
Right. I mean, even just if there's like a quick to-do, or you need to take the to-dos from the current meeting you're in and put it on a list so that at the end of like 4 meetings back to back, you're not going, shoot, I know I had things from that first meeting. Like it's nice just to have a little bit of a recoup time between each.
Right. Okay. So if you could teleport to one place for a quick brainstorming session, where would it be?
Oh, does it need to be business related, or can it be personal related?
No, it could be personal.
Okay. The first thought that popped into my mind, I'm a foodie. So it would be so fun to pop into like a Michelin kitchen and find out how they're planning their menu or how they're approaching, their creative inspiration. Last winter, my husband and I went to New York, and I had never been. We've been all over the place, but I'd never been to New York. And we got to go to 2 Michelin restaurants. It was something we sought out, we really wanted to do. And it was just such a pristine experience. And I'll also say I love hole in the walls too, right? So it doesn't have to be a fancy restaurant to enjoy it. But that's what popped in my head of like, from a brainstorming standpoint, if I could get in somewhere where someone was saying, this is how I want to approach the menu. And one thought that comes to mind, there is a restaurant in Pittsburgh called Nemacolin, and it's a big resort complex, and like the Jonas Brothers host birthdays there. It's this kind of really random place that you'd never know about. My brother worked there for a season, and there was a restaurant that you would get an envelope, a red envelope. I haven't been to this restaurant, but you'd get a red envelope on your plate, and you'd open it, and it would just be words like chicken, mushrooms, carrots, and you'd circle different things, and then you'd give it back, and then the waiter would bring it back to the chef, and you would end up with this fully bespoke dish based on whatever you selected. So anyway, I do a lot of brainstorming when it comes to sales and when it comes to marketing and leadership for the companies that I serve, but foodie is another passion of mine. So I had to share.
Oh, that's fabulous. That's definitely very unique. I like that. That's a great insight there. Okay, if you had to name your personal business anthem, what would it be?
I would say give back and elevate others, and it will come full circle for everyone involved.
Well said. Okay, what's the quirkiest productivity hack you swear by?
Quirkiest productivity hack I swear by. Oh, okay. So I tend to have to trick myself into productivity when I have open times in my calendar. So there are seasons where I block off my work time religiously. So anytime between meetings, I block it off and it says work time or it says emails or whatever it is it needs to be. Other times that just doesn't work for my brain. Like a few months will go by and that just feels a little bit overwhelming to look at my calendar and it is fully full from the start of the day to the end of the day. And when that happens, I don't have any work time blocked off. And I just assume anything that's free, I go back to my list and figure out what has to get done. So I don't know if anybody has to trick themselves into productivity. I do. So to me, that seems a little quirky.
Oh, yeah. I love that. It's like you go from one extreme to the other to kind of like balance it out.
Yeah. And I'm a very achiever oriented person. And once I get on something, there's no issue continuing on with it. It's just every once in a while you get into I have a lot of things to tackle and only 30 minutes. Which one comes first? And kind of that like analysis paralysis. So dancing back and forth with what my calendar physically looks like tends to help me with that for whatever reason.
That's great. Okay. So describe your leadership style in 3 emojis and explain them.
Emojis. Oh, if anybody follows my content on LinkedIn, you know that I do enjoy emojis. I would say the celebration symbol. I don't know how to describe it. Looks like a little air horn with the little celebration on there. And I really enjoy celebrating what other people do and what other people do well. I think it's an art that we could all get better at. Everybody feels good when they're complimented in things that they're either really good at or trying to get better at. So I would do that for one of them. The stars emoji for me is fun. Just like there's a couple little stars that I use a lot. And for me, I use it when I am highlighting an insight. So just shining a light on something. And then we'll go the clap hands because I do really enjoy sharing what other people are sharing for their insights, right? Like if somebody posts something on LinkedIn and I think others can benefit from it, I enjoy commenting with that, as well as whatever it is I'm sharing in support of them.
All right. Oh,
I guess they all come down to lifting people up and showing some enthusiasm in the world.
Exactly. And you know what? I've had the most fun in this season talking about like emojis describing leadership style because there's been such a wide variety. I think at some point I'm going to post all the emojis that everybody has used.
Oh,
kind of have.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, exactly. Well, listen, Kelli, this has been absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much for being on the show. And I look forward to talking to you real soon again. And we will definitely have you back on the podcast.
Thank you for having me on, and what a fun conversation.
Thanks for listening to the Pass the Pitch podcast with Anna Frazzetto. Don't forget to subscribe and share. In our next episode, we talk to Kendra Cato about leadership lessons, building safe spaces for innovation, and the power of vulnerability in driving team success. See you then.